The grand lobby of the Willard Intercontinental Hotel sparkled with gold chandeliers and polished marble floors. Powerful people in tuxedos and evening gowns stood in clusters, sipping wine and sharing quiet political gossip. It was a night of laughter and speeches, a celebration of influence in Washington, D.C. But something was about to break that smooth, polished surface. Karoline Leavitt walked through the crowd with calm confidence. Only 27, she was already the youngest White House press secretary in American history. Her black dress was simple, elegant. Her heels clicked softly on the floor. People turned as she passed, offering polite nods and cautious smiles. Some respected her, others feared her. Many disliked her but pretended otherwise. She was sharp, bold, and deeply loyal to the president. But tonight, none of that would matter. Not the title. Not the loyalty. Not the carefully rehearsed answers. Tonight, something completely different was waiting. Without warning, the tall glass doors swung open. In walked Ethan Caldwell. His arrival felt like a gust of cold wind. He didn't wear a tuxedo. Just a dark jacket, open shirt, and a smug grin that said he didn't need an invitation to own the room. Ethan was famous, especially among liberal circles. A pianist, a YouTube star, a loud voice against the right. He was known for blending music and politics, mocking conservatives through viral performances. And tonight, he came prepared to strike. The crowd noticed him immediately. Some laughed. Others exchanged nervous glances. Karoline didn't flinch. She just watched him walk straight across the room toward the grand piano near the stage. He sat down at the piano bench, hands poised just above the keys. Then he looked up, straight at Karoline. "Can the press secretary play?" he said, loud enough for all to hear. "Or does she just pound keys for Trump?" A few journalists laughed, their phones already up and recording. Karoline didn't move. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes were fixed on him. Ethan wasn't done. He tilted his head, smirking. "Come on, Karoline. Show us some real talent, if you've got any." The room went still. People leaned in. The laughter faded into silence. The chandeliers seemed to shine brighter, throwing light across Karoline's face. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Her hand curled slightly at her side. Behind her, aides whispered. Conservative donors looked uneasy. Some of the younger reporters were practically drooling at the idea of a viral disaster. It was a setup, and everyone knew it. A public dare. A chance to humiliate the administration's face in front of cameras, politicians, and donors alike. Karoline stepped forward. No one said a word. The room watched as she slowly walked to the piano. Ethan leaned back, clearly entertained. She didn't say anything. She didn't smile. She just stood beside him, looking down at the black and white keys. "Picture this," Ethan said, gesturing theatrically to the crowd. "The White House press secretary, MAGA's mouthpiece, sits down to play. Will it be a patriotic march, or just clumsy noise?" The crowd laughed again, but less this time. Something had shifted. Karoline calmly stepped around him and sat on the bench. Ethan raised an eyebrow. This part wasn't expected. Karoline placed her hands on her lap. Then, slowly, she reached forward. Her fingers hovered just above the keys. Her back was straight, posture perfect. Someone near the stage whispered, "Is she actually going to play?" A few phones zoomed in. Karoline's eyes closed for a second. She looked like she was somewhere else. A long time ago. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere with no cameras, no politics. Just her. And a piano. Ethan's smug expression faltered slightly. The crowd held its breath. Karoline opened her eyes. And then, with the grace of someone who had once played not for power, but for peace, she placed her fingers on the keys, and the room fell silent. The first notes drifted through the air, like smoke, soft, slow, and haunting. No one expected it. The music wasn't political or loud. It wasn't patriotic or ironic. It was a quiet, classical melody that didn't demand attention. It stole it. Ethan Caldwell, who moments ago had looked so sure of himself, sat frozen, beside the piano. His smile faded. His hands, still resting on his lap, didn't move. He didn't dare interrupt. Karoline Leavitt played with the grace of someone who had done this for years in secret. Each note fell perfectly in place, smooth and confident. The room, packed with the noise of ambition just minutes ago, had transformed. The only sound was the music, and the faint hum of recording phones. Reporters who had expected a disaster now looked confused. A few had stopped filming, simply watching. Liberal guests exchanged puzzled glances. Conservative donors stared, as if seeing Karoline for the first time. In that moment, she wasn't a press secretary. She wasn't a mouthpiece for any administration. She was just a woman and a piano. But underneath the calm surface of her face, something deeper was moving. Memories she had buried for years. Years ago, before the press briefings and political wars, she was a different girl. Not in D.C., not in the White House, but in a small music room in New Hampshire, where her father used to sit beside her and teach her the piano. Back then, music wasn't for show. It was how they survived. Her father, David Leavitt, had been a quiet man, full of secrets, working in the intelligence world. When the headlines destroyed his name and the government called him a traitor, music was all they had left. Karoline's fingers moved faster now. The melody grew deeper, more painful. In the crowd, a well-known journalist, David Brano from the Washington Chronicle, leaned toward his cameraman. "I want background on her music training. Now. This is not just a stunt." Ethan finally spoke, his voice low, trying to recover his control. "Didn't know you had it in you." Karoline didn't look at him. She kept playing. Her fingers swept across the final keys. The last note echoed high above the crowd, bouncing off the marble and glass like a bell in a cathedral. Then, silence. Not a breath. Not a cough. Just stillness. Karoline stood up slowly and turned toward the crowd. She didn't smile. She didn't bow. She simply nodded once and walked off the stage. Behind her, Ethan remained seated, still trying to process what had just happened. His own arrogance had trapped him, and the person he tried to humiliate had taken control of the narrative without saying a single word. The crowd began to clap. Softly at first, then louder. Not everyone joined in. Some weren't sure what they were clapping for. Talent, strength, defiance. But the moment had shifted. The energy in the room had changed. The laughter from before was gone. It had been replaced by a question that no one had asked yet. Who really is Karoline Leavitt? By the time she returned to her table, her phone was already buzzing. Her comms director leaned in with wide eyes. "You're trending. #2 on X. The video's everywhere." Karoline glanced at the screen. Ethan's smirk, her silent approach to the piano, and her playing, it was all captured from multiple angles. The captions varied. Karoline Leavitt shocks D.C. Gala with piano masterpiece. Press secretary or prodigy. Leavitt's viral moment. Watch Ethan Caldwell's face when she starts playing. One clip had over 3 million views already. But with the attention came something else. Something darker. A message flashed on her screen from an unknown number. "Beautiful. Just like your father. DL." Karoline froze. The screen blurred for a second as her mind raced. The initials. The tone. It couldn't be. She hadn't heard from him in years. Not since he disappeared after being accused of leaking classified documents from a CIA black site in Poland. Not since the government had erased him. She looked up, scanning the room. Nothing. Just more cameras and cautious applause. She handed the phone to her aide. Find out where that message came from. As the music faded from the marble halls, a different rhythm had begun. One of questions, secrets, and something buried long ago finally starting to rise. And far in the back, a man in a gray coat slipped out a side door, unseen. A cold breeze followed the man in the gray coat as he disappeared through the service exit of the Willard Intercontinental Hotel. No one noticed him, except the surveillance cameras and one foreign journalist sitting alone with a drink, who narrowed his eyes just slightly as the door clicked shut behind the stranger. Inside, the party tried to breathe again. Conversation slowly restarted, but they were different now, quieter, uncertain. The atmosphere had cracked. Karoline Leavitt's unexpected performance had become the center of gravity in a room full of egos, and even those who despised her politically now whispered her name with a strange new respect. But Karoline wasn't celebrating. She sat at her table, back straight, eyes scanning her phone screen. "Did we get anything on that message?" she asked. Her aide, Alex, shook his head. "Numbers encrypted. Burner phone. Could be a troll, but the way it's worded feels personal." Karoline tapped her nail against the glass. "DL." She spoke the letters under her breath, her voice almost trembling. "It's him." "Your father?" Alex asked carefully. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The thought of David Leavitt alive and watching, after all these years, hit harder than any headline. He had vanished after the scandal, branded a traitor, accused of selling intelligence to a foreign state. Karoline had believed he was dead. The White House never confirmed it. No body, no trial, just silence. Until now. A new notification buzzed, on her phone. Same hands, same tempo, still hiding behind music. DL Karoline stood so fast her chair nearly tipped over. She looked toward the piano again, toward the place where Ethan had tried to humiliate her, and where her past had suddenly come back to life. She moved to the corner of the lobby, away from cameras. Alex followed, trying to keep up. "We need to talk to someone in counterintelligence," she said. "Someone we trust." "In this city?" Alex replied. "That's a short list." Karoline stared at the floor. "Call Bondi." "Florida AG Bondi?" "She owes me a favor." Alex raised an eyebrow but didn't ask. He made the call. Meanwhile, across the room, Ethan Caldwell was trying to recover. A CNN correspondent had approached him for a live reaction, expecting a smug dismissal or sarcastic comment. Instead, Ethan looked shaken. "I didn't know she could play," he said on air. "I thought it would be a laugh, you know? A moment." The anchor's tone was polite, but pressing. "But it wasn't, was it? Did it feel like a mistake in hindsight?" Ethan swallowed. It felt like she wasn't playing for us, like she was playing for someone else. That clip, too, went viral. Karoline stepped outside into the cold night, past Secret Service agents and staffers trying to contain the media frenzy. Across the street, black SUVs idled quietly. Pam Bondi arrived less than an hour later, escorted through a side entrance. The former Attorney General of Florida, now with close ties to the intelligence community, greeted Karoline with a quick, quiet hug. "You think he's alive?" Bondi asked. "I think he's close," Karoline said, "and I think he wanted me to know." Bondi nodded slowly. "If he's reaching out now, it means something's moving. Either he's in danger, or he wants to warn you." "I need to know what happened in Poland," Karoline said. "The truth. Not what the press printed. Not what Langley buried." Bondi's expression darkened. "That file was locked after the Vienna Protocol. Even I couldn't get full access." Karoline met her gaze. "Then it's time someone did." Bondi looked at her for a long moment. Then she handed Karoline a small chip. Encrypted backdoor. 1 hour of access to a level 6 archive. Use it wisely. Inside, the party continued, as if the world hadn't shifted. But outside, in the quiet shadows of Washington, an old Cold War ghost had returned. And as Karoline slipped the chip into her phone and loaded the secure channel, she didn't know what she feared more: finding out her father had betrayed his country, or finding out he hadn't. The screen glowed blue in Karoline Leavitt's hand as the encrypted archive opened. A cold digital silence wrapped around her. She stood alone on the rooftop terrace of the Willard Intercontinental, city lights glittering. Below, the echo of party chatter far behind her. For a moment, it felt like she was standing at the edge of something much larger than herself, a cliff of buried history. A password prompt blinked. Karoline typed in her father's old code name. Nightingale 47. Access granted. The documents loaded one by one. Operation names. Redacted field reports. Diplomatic cables. She moved fast, fingers flying across the screen, looking for anything linked to David Leavitt. Then she found it. Operation Silent Prelude, Poland, 2018. She tapped. The document opened with a warning. Top secret, unauthorized access punishable by federal law. Karoline didn't care. She read. David Leavitt, senior intelligence operative assigned to Warsaw, received unauthorized recordings from Site V. Alleged contents include audio of U.S. interrogation tactics used on foreign nationals in violation of NATO agreements. Subject: leaked this audio to international journalists under alias Grey Veil. Intercepted before final drop. Agent disappeared en route to diplomatic safe house. Presumed dead or defected. Her chest tightened. Her father had tried to expose illegal black site activity, torture, covered up by her own government. He wasn't a traitor. He was a whistleblower. And someone wanted that story buried. Forever. A new window blinked open on her screen. Incoming. Message. Unknown source. Stop digging. You're not him. DL Karoline's hands trembled. Her heart pounded. It was live. Someone was watching her access the file in real time. Why now? She typed back. Why the piano? Why the message? The reply came instantly. Because the next leak is bigger, and this time, they'll come for you too. Behind her, the terrace door opened. Karoline spun around, phone still in hand. Alex stepped out, breath visible in the cold air. The media's everywhere. Your front page on 5 platforms already. Bondi says you've got 30 minutes left on the secure link. Karoline nodded slowly. We need to find the journalist my father contacted before he disappeared. The original drop never happened. He trusted someone. Alex frowned. That's suicide. If we find him, others will too. You'll be exposing a man who's been off the grid for 6 years. I don't care, Karoline said. If I'm going to stand at that podium and lie every day, I want to at least know the truth, behind the silence. Inside, the ballroom was now buzzing, not with small talk, but with speculation. News broke fast in Washington, and Karoline's name was being dragged into unfamiliar waters. On CNN, a panel debated her past. What do we really know about her? One host asked. She just stunned the elite with a piano performance that felt more like a coded message than entertainment. Is this political theater? Another questioned. Or is the press secretary sending signals to someone? Across the world, in a quiet apartment in Vienna, a man with a scar across his jaw stared at a live stream of the segment. He didn't blink. He just whispered to himself. She found the file. He opened a secure call line. Activate the Berlin Protocol. Leavitt's daughter is in play. We move within 72 hours. Back in D.C., Karoline's phone buzzed again. A new video file had arrived. No sender. She opened it. The footage was grainy, but unmistakable. A man, David Leavitt, sitting in a dark, concrete room. His voice was weak. If you're watching this, they didn't get me. Not fully. What I uncovered can't be buried again. Not without consequence. The chain leads back to DC. Not just CIA. Executive clearance. Black. Funding. The name you're looking for is in the music. He looked up, straight into the camera. Karoline, forgive me. I never wanted this life for you. The screen went black. Alex stared. That was him. He's alive. Karoline whispered. No, that was recorded. It's old. Alex turned to her. Then what did he mean? The name is in the music. Karoline looked back toward the piano inside. The melody she had played wasn't just muscle memory. It was one of the only songs her father taught her start to finish. A waltz with no name. But maybe it had one. Maybe hidden in the notes was a message. She remembered a fragment of the melody. The way it lingered in minor chords, shifting between 3 keys. And then she realized it was a cipher. A name, coded in musical patterns. A name worth killing. Frank Karoline turned to Alex. We need to find a composer. The door to the dimly lit Georgetown apartment opened with a cautious creak. Inside, the scent of stale coffee and ink filled the air. Stacks of sheet music and dusty audio reels covered every surface. A battered piano stood near the window, yellow keys gleaming in the moonlight. Karoline stepped inside first, followed by Alex and Pam Bondi. The man who greeted them looked like he hadn't slept in days. Mid-50s, salt and pepper beard, faded, jeans. His name was Andrei Novak, a former intelligence cryptologist turned underground composer, a genius once employed by NATO to develop sound-based codes, now forgotten by the official world. I saw the performance, Andrei said in a gravelly voice. I knew the moment you hit the C-sharp minor arpeggio. It wasn't random. It was your father's call. Karoline nodded. You knew him? I helped him write that piece, Andrei said. It wasn't just a waltz. It's a code. Each note represents a syllable. Timing, chord progression, tempo shifts. It's all data. He sat down at his piano, motioned for silence, and began to play the same melody Karoline had performed days earlier at the gala. But this time, he played it slowly, analyzing each bar like a puzzle. Karoline watched, her mind racing. Bondi remained near the window, eyes on the street below, fingers brushing the grip of a concealed weapon. She knew this operation had drawn eyes that could be watching them even now. Andrei stopped after 3 minutes. The name hidden in this melody is not just a person. It's a project. He scribbled something on a page and turned it around. Project Glass Torch. Karoline read it out loud. What the hell is Glass Torch? Andrei leaned back. That's the part I never knew. But your father told me one thing before he disappeared. If Glass Torch ever goes active, Washington will pretend it never existed. Before anyone could respond, the lights cut out. Everything went black. Bondi drew her weapon instantly. Move, away from the windows. A red dot danced briefly across the wall, then vanished. Alex cursed under his breath. They're here. Gunshots cracked in the distance. 2, then silence. The hallway outside the apartment creaked. Shadows moved. Bondi pulled Karoline down behind the piano. You said you wanted the truth. Well, welcome to the part where people start dying for it. Footsteps echoed closer. Then came a voice through the door, calm, smooth, familiar. Karoline, don't make this harder. We just want to talk. Karoline froze. She recognized that voice. Not from television, not from press briefings, but from childhood. Director Grant Whitmore, Deputy National Security Advisor. Her father's closest friend before the scandal. She stood up slowly, ignoring Bondi's protest. How long have you known he was alive? A pause. Since the night he disappeared, Whitmore replied. He made a deal with the wrong allies. We kept him hidden for everyone's safety, including yours. You silenced him, she said. I protected the country. No, Karoline snapped. You protected the lie, Alex whispered. We have to go. Now. Andre handed her a thumb drive. It contains the ciphered audio version. Play it anywhere public, and the whole structure collapses. But once it's out, there's no going back. Is it complete? She asked. No, he said, but it's enough to burn through half of Langley's firewall. Bondi checked her watch. We've got one shot. Arlington Station, midnight. There's a safe line through the metro tunnels. Leads to a friendly hacker network in Baltimore. After that, we disappear. Whitmore's voice came again, more urgent now. You release that drive, Karoline, and people will die. Real people. Not just spies and agents, families, operatives in the field. Are you prepared to carry that weight? Karoline clenched her jaw. You didn't ask my father that before you erased him. She turned to the others. We run. They moved fast, out the back, through alleys, down into the echoing stillness of the DC Metro. As the train pulled into the deserted station, Karoline gripped the drive tightly. Behind her, Bondi was already calling in one last favor. Andre was gone, vanished back into the shadows. And somewhere deep in the archives of the intelligence community, a silent alarm triggered. Project Glass Torch, status, compromised. A message lit up in red. Activate Phoenix Protocol. And as the train doors closed behind them, Karoline knew she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. The war her father started had just come back to life. The old metro train cut through the tunnels like a ghost, its lights flickering as it sped toward Baltimore. Inside the car, Karoline sat hunched over a cracked tablet screen, watching the decrypted parts of the audio file Andre had given her. Voices played softly through the speaker. Confirmation of off-the-books funding approved by Executive Directive 417B. Project Glass Torch remains deniable. NATO exposure unacceptable. Karoline paused the file. Her mind raced. Executive Directive 4117B. A level of presidential authority beyond congressional oversight. Whoever authorized Glass Torch had done so at the very top. Across from her, Alex sat with a burner phone, contacting the hacker cell they were heading toward. Pam Bondi stood near the train doors, her stance rigid, eyes sharp, fingers never far from her firearm. We're close, Alex said. The network's expecting us. Once we upload the file, they'll mirror it across 30 platforms and dark web drop points. They'll never get all of it down. Karoline nodded, but her face showed no relief. What happens after we upload it? She asked quietly. Will it matter? Bondi didn't look back. It'll matter to them. You think they'll just let you vanish? They'll try, Karoline said, but I'm not disappearing. As the train pulled into the abandoned underground platform known to the hacker network as Node Zero, masked figures appeared in the shadows. No one spoke. They moved like a unit, clean, efficient, silent. One of them, a tall woman in a patched-up tactical jacket, stepped forward. You have the file? She asked. Karoline nodded and handed over the drive. The woman plugged it into a portable decryption console. The screen flared with light as code spilled across it. Within seconds, video, documents, and audio reports poured into mirrored servers across the globe. Status? Bondi asked. The hacker looked up. It's live. Karoline exhaled. But before they could react, the lights above flickered and went dark. A dull boom echoed down the tunnel. EMP! One of the hackers growled. They're here. Gunfire exploded from the far tunnel. Bondi shoved Karoline behind a concrete column. Stay low. They're not here to arrest. They're here to erase. The sound of footsteps thundered through the space. Men in black combat gear emerged from the shadows, unmarked, no insignias, visors down. Phoenix Protocol. Kill teams. The hacker group scrambled to extract the drive, but one of them was hit, dropped instantly. Alex grabbed Karoline's hand and pulled her through a maintenance hatch. The others held the line with automatic fire, but they were being outgunned. They knew, Karoline gasped as they sprinted through a steam-filled corridor. They knew we'd upload it tonight. They always know, Bondi said grimly. You don't survive in the White House without understanding one rule. The intelligence agencies don't work for the president. They work for themselves. Karoline stumbled, caught her balance. Then who does Glass Torch serve? Alex answered, whoever can keep it funded and buried. That's not a government. That's a shadow economy. Corporations, contractors, foreign interests. Your father tried to burn it down. You just lit the match again. They reached the far exit. Outside, a black SUV waited, engine running. The driver, a hacker known only as Circuit, waved them in. Where's the rest of the team? He shouted. Gone, Bondi said without emotion. Go now! The SUV roared forward. Karoline looked back one last time. Smoke poured from the tunnel. Behind them, Node 0 was collapsing. But the file was already out. Millions of people around the world were watching what had just leaked. On screens in London, Tokyo, New York, and Istanbul, headlines screamed, Whistleblower file, leaks top secret U.S. torture op. Project Glass Torch exposed inside the shadow presidency. Who authorized the black sites? President demands emergency. Session with NATO leaders. And in the Oval Office, the president watched it unfold with clenched fists. Get me Director Whitmore, he said. Moments later, Whitmore appeared on screen. She's gone dark, he said. Bondi's protecting her, but we've lost control of the narrative. The president stared at the screen. She was supposed to be one of us, loyal. She's her father's daughter, Whitmore replied. We underestimated that. Elsewhere in a remote mountain base in Poland, an encrypted line buzzed. A man stepped forward, face hidden by shadows. He looked down at the burning data, spreading through the net. He whispered, Phase 2 begins. Back in the SUV, Karoline looked out at the empty highway ahead. The sky was still dark, but she could see the faintest glow of dawn on the horizon. Alex glanced over at her. You all right? No, she said honestly, but we started something that can't be stopped now. Bondi, sitting in the front, checked her gun again. They'll hunt you, discredit you, destroy your name. Karoline looked straight ahead. Then I'll give them something bigger than my name to fear. The sun was rising over Washington, D.C., but nothing felt the same. Every major news network had gone into non-stop coverage. Cable anchors stood in front of screens showing decrypted files, blurred images from torture sites, secret budget documents, with White House stamps, and black and white footage of men with bags over their heads. The words Glass Torch pulsed across the world like a code breaking open the heart of power. Karoline Leavitt sat in a small, windowless room inside an undisclosed building in Baltimore, surrounded by flickering monitors and a single live camera. The air buzzed with tension. On the screen in front of her, a countdown. 15 minutes until the broadcast went live. Pam Bondi paced quietly in the background, speaking with a global media coordinator. Alex typed rapidly beside Karoline, finalizing the digital links. Everything they had uncovered was now backed up across 37 mirror sites, 3 offline vaults, and 5 international press outlets ready to air the story. But Karoline wasn't thinking about the files anymore. She was thinking about her father, and about what was coming next. This isn't just a scandal, Alex said softly, reading a breaking headline. Germany just called for a NATO intelligence audit. Italy wants a full congressional hearing. They're demanding a pause on joint operations with U.S. black sites. Karoline barely nodded. They're cornered, Bondi said, and that makes them unpredictable. Karoline turned to the live camera. The light blinked red. The broadcast would begin in 10 seconds. She took a breath. When the stream started, it wasn't a formal press conference. It was just her. Karoline, alone, eyes locked onto the world. "My name is Karoline Leavitt," she began. "You know me as the White House press secretary. But today, I speak as a citizen, as a daughter, and as someone who has been lied to, just like all of you." She paused, letting the silence stretch. For decades, a secret operation known as Project Glass Torch was carried out under the full protection of governments, intelligence agencies, and private corporations. The files you are seeing today were hidden not because of national security, but because of national shame. Images appeared next to her. Infrared photos of facilities in Eastern Europe, classified memos from the Defense Department, footage of political detainees who were never seen again. My father tried to stop this. He was silenced, framed, and almost forgotten. But his music, yes, music, was the code that brought it all back. She looked down for a moment, gathering her courage. I did not come forward for revenge. I came forward because we are standing at the edge of something deeper. This isn't about left or right, conservative or liberal. This is about who gets to decide what truth is, and who pays the price when truth is buried. Around the world, people stopped to listen. In cafes, airports, classrooms, and boardrooms, screens played her words. Politicians in Europe froze. Journalists scrambled. And in secret bunkers, powerful men made quiet phone calls. "I will be hunted for this," she said plainly. "They will try to rewrite the story, but the truth is already out. It cannot be erased." The feed ended, but the world didn't return to silence. Instead, it erupted. Within hours, emergency sessions began in the UN. NATO froze all U.S. intelligence partnerships until a full review. Congressional leaders in both parties demanded hearings. Protesters gathered outside the White House and across cities. Anonymous whistleblowers surfaced. Former operatives came forward. The White House released a vague statement. The president denied knowledge. But no one was convinced. At 3 a.m. that night, in a hidden compound outside Zurich, an encrypted message was sent. She survived. Phase 3 is now operational. Back in Baltimore, Karoline stood on the rooftop, looking out over the dark skyline. "You've shaken the world," Bondi said quietly behind her. Karoline didn't answer right away. "I don't know what comes next." "No one ever does," Bondi replied. "But you've bought time, for the truth to breathe." Alexei joined them, holding a small package. "This was delivered 5 minutes ago. No return address." Karoline opened it. Inside was a music box. When she turned the key, it played the melody her father had taught her. The same one she had played at the gala, the one that had started everything. But this time, a new phrase played at the end. A few extra notes she had never heard before. A code. A message. Still unfinished. Beneath the music box lid was a handwritten note. "There's more. And they still don't know where I am. Stay sharp. Dad." Karoline looked up at the stars above Washington. The story wasn't over. It was only the beginning.